Hey everybody, Billy Ward here. I want to welcome you to the Billy Ward podcast. I want to kick off this episode with a tremendous amount of gratitude for all of you. Thank you for showing up. I don't take your investment of time with me lightly. And for that reason, I want to go right to the core of what really matters in this life. The Billy Ward podcast is simply going to be a place where you can come and learn how to make your lives better. You are certainly a part of the equation. I'm going to provide you with ideas and a framework by which to live, but it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to apply them and eventually put those ideas into action. Stick around for a few minutes and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our intentions. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for the last 22 plus years at a local Catholic all-boys prep school called Seton Hall Prep High School. I never imagined being a teacher. My dream was to play quarterback in the NFL, and upon graduating from Georgetown University, I signed a contract with the Baltimore Ravens. And right before their first game, I was cut and I was let go, and that dream ended. And a year later, I found myself teaching. What I didn't know then, but what I do know now, is that I fell in love with teaching. I fell in love with teaching in the same way that I fell in love with football. You see, Seton Hall Prep just isn't a school. Seton Hall Prep is a community, a place of family, faith, compassion, and courage. My two most cherished roles within the school are teacher and secondly, retreat director. I've been directing over 44 retreats over the course of the last 10 years with my good friend, Sharon Rondinella. This has probably been my most transformational experience, where I got to witness teenagers, faculty, and others experience what I like to call this human equation. The more open we are, the more courage we have in taking risk and sharing who we are, the more opportunities we're going to have to connect. And when we connect, we're going to feel more fully alive. In addition to being a teacher and a retreat director, I've also practiced as a psychotherapist in therapy for the last 15 years, counseling individuals and couples and families and teenagers on the human experience. And I've been incredibly grateful and blessed that my clients invited me into the inner workings of their human mind and spirit. And what I witnessed and observed over the course of the last 15 years are a number of different patterns of the human experience that I'm going to share with you through this podcast. In addition to being a therapist and a teacher and a retreat director, I'm also incredibly committed to my own growth and development. The more I find that I dive into my mind, my body, and my spirit, the more peace, freedom, joy, and love I begin to experience. And so on a daily basis, I pray, I practice yoga, and I meditate. If I can pause here and share a brief story with you that I think will embody our intention here at the Billy Ward podcast. When I was about 27, 28, I picked up a book that literally, it changed the course of my life. And that book was called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. He shares 4 agreements in a way that he hopes give you a structure and a vision by which to live your life by. Those agreements are, number 1, be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. And number 4, always do your best. For the first time in my life, I was reading a book that I felt completely in alignment with. And I didn't want to bullshit around with the ideas. I really wanted to apply them and experiment with them and see what their results were. So I committed the book to memory and the agreements, and I decided that I was going to take these agreements with me wherever I went. Let's take a look at the first agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Use the power of your word in the direction of love and truth. Well, the impact of this agreement was so dramatic in my life. And I'd like to take a look about the relationship we all have with ourselves. Be impeccable with your word, not only in the way that you speak to others, but also in the way that you speak to yourself. And that's a really big one for all of us, I believe, because the relationship we have internally with ourselves can often be rather chaotic. What I mean here is, in any given moment, we can be affirming and lifting ourselves up, but more often than not, our collective human experience and our default with ourselves is to do just the opposite, to beat ourselves up, to look for what's missing or what's wrong. And I certainly was a part of that group. And so in my daily experience, whenever I started to beat myself up internally with my dialogue, that agreement would kind of come floating into my conscious mind and say, hey, don't forget, be impeccable with your word. Use the power of your word in the direction of love and truth. And what I found was that my belief in myself was starting to surge and to grow. I want to share here a line that I've read in literature. The biggest difference between those who believe they are worthy of love and belonging and those who believe they are not is simply a belief. A belief. That idea just changed my life, because that belief really is the result of your relationship with yourself and how you choose to talk to yourself. And so this one agreement started to create such a much more expansive experience for me in my life and the relationship that I had with myself. And so I started applying the second agreement. Don't take things personally. And I know that myself and all of you, because of my experience with a lot of you, that we all at some point or another have said to ourselves or somebody else, do you believe what that person said or did to me? And I found myself, whenever I said that, that second agreement would kind of come creeping into my conscious mind. Don't take it personally. What other people do is a projection of their own reality, not yours. And what this did, it took the burden of what other people said or did off of my shoulders and gave me the freedom and the opportunity to choose how I wanted to respond. People see things as they are, not as you are. And so these two agreements just in themselves created such a dramatic shift in my overall experience that this book really started me on this road of personal development and committing on a daily basis to my mind, my body, and my spirit. I share this story with all of you because in some way, shape, or form, I want this podcast to do for you what the four agreements did for me. I want to provide you with a platform of ideas and a structure and a vision by which to live your life in an effort to create more peace, more freedom, more joy, and more love. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create 20-minute episodes. And I want to share briefly that philosophy. I remember being a little kid in the back seat with way too much energy and always asking mom and dad, when are we going to get there? And I chuckle because now as a young father, my boys, both 6 and 9, are constantly asking me, when are we going to get there? And growing up, my father had one answer for that question. Whether it was 5 minutes or maybe an hour until our destination, he would always say, we'll be there in about 20 minutes. I find myself repeating the same thing with my kids. And I share that because for that little kid in the back seat, me, those 20 minutes were digestible. I could deal with 20 minutes. And for all of you, I want to create episodes that are literally 20 to 25 minutes, not 5 or an hour, so that you have an opportunity to digest this information and decide what you're in alignment with and then what you want to apply. You could ride to work listening. You could watch or listen while you're preparing dinner or exercising. But 20 minutes to me is really digestible, and so that's going to be our format with regards to time. With regards to guests, so far we've got a number of people lined up. Thought leaders, motivational leaders, authors, coaches, life coaches, athletic coaches, meditation experts, spiritual leaders, and much, much more. But the people that I'm having on the show are people that have successfully and historically motivated themselves in some way and others to step into the best version of yourself. So I want to provide you with guests that will give you a window by which to live. And then it's up to you, the audience, to decide what ideas am I going to put into action. Why me? As I said earlier, I'm a teacher. But more importantly, I'm really a student. I'm a student of this life, and I recognize that this life is fleeting. And I want to live it fully, abundantly, and experience as much as I can, coupled with an awareness that I'm going to experience the whole spectrum of human emotion. And so I want to invite you along the journey, not because I'm here and saying, hey, look at me, I've made it, but I'm trying to make it. And I want to invite you to walk beside me as we learn to evolve in mind, body, and spirit, and to create more life together. I'm also human, and I'm frail, and I'm vulnerable, and I make mistakes. And I share that with you because I want you to know along this process that we're all human. And it's inevitable that at times we are going to fail and come up short. And that's okay. That's part of the human process. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming along for the ride. It's going to be a good one, a fun one, a casual one. Please take a moment and subscribe below and follow us and enjoy the journey. Peace and love, everyone. Take care.